Jason had always thought he was good at reading people. Maybe it was because of being a single dad for the past 5 years. Raising his daughter, Mia, had trained him to notice the smallest things, tiny gestures, fleeting expressions, subtle shifts in tone. He had learned to anticipate needs before they were spoken, to sense moods before anyone said a word. But nothing in his experience could have prepared him for the quiet tension he noticed at the edge of the cafe that Thursday afternoon. It was a busy, sunlit afternoon in downtown Seattle. The cafe was bustling, the clatter of cups and the low hum of conversation creating a comforting background noise. Jason had come in for his usual, black coffee, no sugar, a blueberry muffin for Mia who was at school that day. He wasn't usually the type to people watch, but something about the girl in the corner caught his attention almost immediately. She was sitting alone, a backpack slouched beside her chair, her fingers twisting nervously around the zipper of her coat. Her eyes kept darting to the door. Not just glancing, darting, like she was calculating, planning. There was a heaviness to her movements, a subtle stiffness, the way she hugged herself. And then there was her gaze. So sharp, so intentional, it made Jason's stomach tighten without reason. He took a sip of his coffee, trying to convince himself he was imagining things. But then she flinched when the barista called out an order, like she expected someone to catch her off guard. Jason's instincts, honed by years of protecting Mia, screamed at him that something was wrong. He hesitated for a moment, debating whether it was his place to intervene. But before he could second guess, the girl stood up suddenly, scanning the cafe like she was searching for a way out. Her backpack slipped from the chair as she adjusted it hastily, and her eyes locked on the exit again. That was when Jason made the decision. Sliding off his chair, he approached her slowly, keeping his hands visible, his voice low and calm. "Hey," he said gently, "are you okay?" She froze, startled, and for a moment, Jason thought she might bolt. But instead, she shook her head quickly, like she was trying to shake off the question itself. I'm fine," she muttered, avoiding his gaze. Jason smiled softly, crouching slightly so he wasn't towering over her. "It's okay if you're not," he said. "I just noticed you seemed a little uneasy. You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but I can stay with you until you feel safe." Her eyes flickered, betraying a mix of fear and relief. Jason could see she was fighting some inner struggle. Finally, after a tense pause, she whispered, I need to get out of here. I can't stay." That made Jason's heart skip a beat. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "We'll figure something out. Can you tell me where you feel safe?" She hesitated, biting her lip, her eyes darting again to the door. "Anywhere, away from here," she admitted softly. Jason glanced around. The cafe was crowded, but no one seemed to notice them. "All right," he said. "I know a quiet spot nearby. Not many people go there. We can sit, talk if you want, or just catch our breath." She looked at him, uncertainty written all over her face. You won't, you don't have to help me," she said quickly. "I can handle it myself." Jason shook his head. "Sometimes we all need a little help. I'm a single dad. Helping is kind of my specialty," he added with a small smile, trying to lighten the mood. "Besides, I've got nothing better to do this afternoon." Her lips quirked into a faint, hesitant smile. It wasn't much, but it was enough. As they walked out of the cafe, Jason noticed the tension in her shoulders start to ease slightly. She moved with a careful vigilance, but she wasn't running anymore. He kept a slow pace beside her, making no sudden movements, giving her space. "Do you want to talk about it?" Jason asked gently. She shook her head. Not yet," she murmured. "Okay," he said. "No pressure. You just need a friend right now. I can do that." They turned down a quieter street, lined with small shops and the soft shade of maples. Jason kept scanning, just in case, but everything seemed calm. Still, he sensed that whatever she was escaping from, it wasn't just the noise of the city, it was something heavier. Finally, they reached a small park tucked behind a row of townhouses. A bench sat under a tree, partially shaded, the kind of place where people went to think without being noticed. Jason sat first, patting the spot beside him. She hesitated, then sat down slowly, clutching her backpack like a lifeline. "You can just sit here," Jason said. "No talking necessary, just breathe for a bit." She exhaled sharply, the sound almost a sob. I don't even know where to start," she admitted finally. "I didn't know anyone would care, I thought I had to do it alone. Jason nodded, understanding immediately. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone in, he said softly. Even strangers can care. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Her gaze softened slightly, though she didn't look at him directly. Why are you helping me? She asked. Jason chuckled quietly. Because I know what it's like to feel alone. My daughter, she's everything to me, but even I can't handle the world alone sometimes. If I can make sure someone doesn't feel that alone for even a moment, why wouldn't I? A pause stretched between them. The city noises faded into the background, leaving only the gentle rustle of leaves. She finally looked at him, really looked, and there was a flicker of something. Trust, maybe, or relief. I didn't know people like you existed, she whispered. Jason shrugged. We're out there. You just have to notice us. Over the next hour, she began to talk, cautiously at first, then more openly. Her name was Emily. She had been in a difficult situation at home, one that forced her to live in fear, constantly planning exits and contingencies. The café wasn't a random stop. It was a place she went sometimes, hoping for a normal, quiet corner where no one would notice. Jason listened without judgment, nodding, asking gentle questions. He shared a bit about Mia, about his struggles as a single parent, about the small victories and the long nights. Slowly, Emily's shoulders relaxed, the tense lines around her eyes softening. At one point, she pulled a small notebook from her backpack, flipping through pages filled with scribbled thoughts and sketches. I write, she said quietly. It helps, when everything feels like it's too much. Jason nodded, smiling. I get that. Mia draws all the time. Keeps her mind busy, keeps her safe in her own way. They talked until the sun dipped lower in the sky, the shadows stretching long across the park. Jason felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of connection he hadn't anticipated when he first walked into that cafe. This girl, a stranger, had entered his life for a brief but profound moment, and he had been able to give her a space to breathe. Finally, Emily stood, tucking her notebook back into her backpack. She looked at him with something akin to gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you, she said simply. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't noticed me. Jason shrugged again, modestly. You didn't have to do it alone, he said. Sometimes that's enough. She hesitated, then added, almost shyly, maybe, I can come by the cafe again. Sit in the corner. But, not like before. I could, say hi? Jason grinned. I'd like that. As she walked away, Jason felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet happiness that comes from knowing you made a difference, however small, in someone else's life. He watched her merge into the city crowd, her steps more confident, her gaze no longer fixated on exits but moving forward. He turned back toward the cafe, thinking of Mia waiting for him at home, and realized that sometimes the world's weight doesn't have to be carried alone. Sometimes, noticing someone, offering a hand without expecting anything in return, that's enough to change everything. Jason returned to his coffee, the city's hum now feeling softer, kinder. And somewhere among the ordinary crowd, Emily's smile lingered in his mind, a reminder of how small acts of compassion can ripple into something profound.